The Girl by the Barricade. It was a bright Sunday afternoon in Los Angeles. Hundreds of fans were lined up behind metal barricades, holding up signs, cameras, and cell phones. They were all waiting for a glimpse of Hollywood royalty outside the red carpet premiere of a new blockbuster movie. Some wore handmade t-shirts, others had flown in from faraway cities. The energy in the air was wild, filled with excitement, flashing lights, and security shouting orders to keep everyone in line. In the middle of the chaos stood a young girl, no older than 15. Her name was Emily. Her hands trembled as she clutched a small photograph to her chest. It was faded, creased at the corners, and had a small tear along one side. In the photo, a younger version of herself stood beside a smiling man with kind eyes. Her father, the same man who had taken her to her very first movie, an old Tom Cruise action film. She had held onto that photo ever since he passed away in a car crash 2 years ago. Today wasn't just about meeting a celebrity. Today was about honoring a promise. Her father had always said, "One day, I'll take you to meet Tom Cruise." He never got the chance. But Emily, through saving every allowance and part-time job dollar she could, made the journey on her own. She had one wish, to tell Tom Cruise how much his movies meant to her father. And maybe, just maybe, get his autograph on that photo, so. The limousines pulled up one by one, fans screamed louder, bodyguards formed lines, cameras clicked, and celebrities waved as they walked past. Emily's heart pounded when she saw him. Tom Cruise, tall, confident, wearing dark glasses and a crisp suit. Her hand shot up, waving the photo, her voice cracking as she screamed, "Mr. Cruise, please, just one moment, please." He glanced in her direction. His eyes paused for just a second. Her hand trembled, holding up the photo, tears welling in her eyes. But then he turned his head, smiled at someone else, and walked away with his entourage. Cheers erupted from the crowd. Everyone else got a wave or a selfie. Emily stood frozen. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Not because she had been ignored, but because that small moment had meant the world to her. Her father's dream had just been dismissed like it was nothing. She slowly lowered the photo, her lips quivering. People around her didn't notice. They were too busy cheering, showing off photos and bragging about what they had captured. But someone saw her. A few cars down, another black vehicle had pulled up. The door opened quietly. No crowd roared. No flashbulbs popped. It was Keanu Reeves. He wore a simple black jacket, jeans, and had a calm expression. He didn't rush. He didn't pose. He just stood there for a moment, scanning the crowd. And then his eyes landed on her, the girl with the photo, the tears, and the broken heart. He tilted his head, concerned. He whispered something to the man next to him and walked over, not toward the fans holding signs or calling his name, but toward the one who hadn't said a word since being passed by. Emily didn't notice him at first. She was too busy trying to wipe her face, too embarrassed to let anyone see her cry. She felt a shadow fall over her. When she looked up, her breath stopped. Keanu Reeves was standing right in front of her, not behind a rope, not waving from a distance. He had walked past security and leaned down with a gentle voice. "Hey, are you okay?" For a moment, she couldn't answer. The crowd had gone quieter in the small space around them. People turned to look. Some phones started recording. But Keanu didn't care about the cameras. His full attention was on the girl, who looked like her world had just cracked open. She held up the photo with shaky hands. "This was my dad," she whispered. He always wanted to meet Tom Cruise. We used to watch all his movies. But he died before he could. I just wanted to get his autograph. For him. For both of us. Keanu took the photo carefully, treating it like it was made of glass. He looked at the man in the picture and nodded slowly. "He looks like a good man," he said softly. "I'm sorry he's gone." His words weren't forced. They weren't the kind of empty sympathy people throw out. They were honest. kind, real. Emily bit her lip, trying not to cry harder. Keanu crouched down so he was at eye level with her. He pulled a pen from his pocket and gently signed the bottom of the photo, right beneath her father's hand. "I know. It's not Tom's autograph," he said. "But maybe this could still mean something." She stared at his name. It wasn't what she came for. But somehow it felt better, more human, more right. Then he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded paper. It was a personal invitation to a private meet-and-greet event after the premiere. Only VIP guests were allowed. He handed it to her. "Come tonight," he said with a smile. "I want you to meet someone." Emily looked at the pass, unsure if she should take it. But something in his eyes made her believe it wasn't a joke. He squeezed her shoulder gently and added, "I mean it. Bring your dad with you, in spirit." He stood up, gave her a final warm nod, and walked away, disappearing behind the red carpet wall. But in those few minutes, he had done something more powerful than any blockbuster moment. He had seen her. He had listened. And he had made space for her story. What Emily didn't know yet was that this moment would set off a chain of events that would ripple far beyond the red carpet. Because later that night, when she walked through the doors of the after-party, what she found inside would change her entire life. Forever. And it all started when the world's biggest star walked past her tears. And one quiet man chose to stop. The invitation. Emily sat in the hotel lobby with the invitation clenched in her hand. Her mother, who had flown with her but stayed away from the crowd earlier, sat beside her now, confused and worried. She had seen her daughter cry before, but never like this, heartbroken, then stunned, then hopeful, all in the same hour. The envelope that Keanu Reeves had given her looked plain on the outside, but inside it held something impossible. A handwritten pass, signed at the bottom, with her name already on it. "Are you sure this is real?" her mother asked gently, placing a hand on her shoulder. Emily nodded slowly. "He looked at me like he really meant it. Not like a star, not like an actor, like a person." Her mother didn't say anything else. She simply squeezed her daughter's hand and whispered, "Then let's go." They changed into something a little nicer, though Emily still wore the bracelet her dad gave her on her 9th birthday. Her fingers kept brushing over it as they reached the venue, a quiet rooftop above one of the city's art galleries. The city lights sparkled around them, but the atmosphere here was calm, gentle, like it wasn't meant for noise or crowds. Security at the front door checked the invitation and stepped aside without a word. The moment Emily walked in, she felt like she had stepped into another world. There were only a few people inside. No screaming fans, no flashing lights, just quiet music, soft laughter, and a few famous faces. But she didn't care about them. She was looking for him. And then, near a row of old film posters framed on the wall, she saw him. Keanu was sitting by a table, talking to a little boy in a wheelchair, laughing quietly. He noticed her right away, stood up and waved her over. "I'm glad you came," he said with a warm smile. "Come meet some of my friends." Emily walked up slowly, her voice caught in her throat. The boy in the wheelchair looked up and smiled at her too. He had no hair and his skin was pale, but his eyes were bright. "Keanu just told me you have a special photo," he said. "Can I see it?" She pulled it out now with Keanu's signature on it. The boy studied it like it was magic. "That's cool," he said. "My dad left before I was born. I don't have a picture like that, but I like this one." Emily smiled, her heart softening. She had come to meet a movie star. Now she was sitting beside a boy who knew more about missing people than she ever imagined. Keanu came back with 2 cups of lemonade and sat beside them. "His name is Ben. He's one of the strongest people I know," he said. "Emily, you're about to meet a few more." Over the next hour, Emily was introduced to people she never thought she'd meet. Kids with illnesses, teenagers who had lost parents, young people who had survived things most adults couldn't even speak about. None of them were famous, none of them wore designer clothes, but every one of them had something in common. They had been helped by Keanu Reeves. He didn't talk about it publicly. No one posted it online. He just showed up. When hospitals couldn't make a child smile, he would visit with comic books. When a family couldn't afford rent, he would send support without even giving his name. When a fan broke down on a movie set, he would sit beside them until they felt whole again. Emily watched as he talked to each person like they were the only one in the world. No script, no attention-seeking. Just kindness, raw and quiet. Then, when the sun had long dipped behind the buildings, Keanu asked Emily to walk with him for a moment. They stepped out onto the quiet balcony, where the city hummed below them. He leaned against the railing and looked out, not speaking right away. "I saw your face earlier," he said finally. "Not the tears. I've seen those before. But the way you held that photo. I recognize something." "Something I've felt." Emily tilted her head. "You mean losing someone?" He nodded slowly. "I lost my best friend when I was young. Then later I lost someone I loved more than anything. Cancer took her too fast. Since then, I've learned that the loudest pain is the one we carry in silence." His voice was steady but heavy with memory. He didn't cry. He didn't need to. Emily understood. "I thought no one saw me," she said. "Everyone else was too busy." Keanu turned to her, his expression soft but serious. "That's why I came over, because no one should feel invisible in their most important moment." A breeze passed between them, and Emily felt a calm wash over her. For the first time since her father died, someone had listened to her grief, not to fix it, but to understand it. Before they left, Keanu handed her something wrapped in cloth. "Open this later when you're ready," he said. "But promise me you'll keep going, keep honoring your dad." She nodded, her heart too full for words. As she and her mother rode back to their hotel, Emily finally unwrapped the cloth. Inside was a small leather journal. On the first page was a note in Keanu's handwriting. "Every story deserves to be told, even the quiet ones. Write yours." Tears filled her eyes again, but this time they weren't from sadness. They were from hope. Emily had come to meet a star. Instead, she found a human being who gave her more than fame ever could. What she didn't know was that this was just the beginning. The photo, the meeting, the journal. It would soon reach people far, beyond the red carpet, because someone had taken a video. And overnight, the world would see what a real hero looks like. The video that changed everything. The next morning, Emily woke up to the sound of her phone buzzing again and again. At first, she ignored it. Her eyes were still heavy from crying the night before. But this time, the tears had been warm, healing. Her heart, once weighed down with sadness, now carried something new. Peace. But the buzzing didn't stop. "Emily," her mother called from the other side of the hotel room. "You need to see this. Right now." Emily rubbed her eyes, picked up her phone, and froze. The screen was filled with messages, missed calls, and dozens of notifications from apps she barely used. Her heart pounded as she opened one of them, a message from her friend in school. "Is this you with Keanu Reeves?" "It's everywhere!" She clicked the link. The video started with shaky footage taken from a phone. It showed the exact moment Keanu had walked past the red carpet, breaking away from the cameras and noise. The focus then shifted to her, the crying girl clutching the photo. The caption on the screen read, "While others ignored her." He stopped. The video showed their entire interaction. His calm voice, the way he crouched beside her, how he touched her shoulder gently and gave her the invitation. Then it cut to a still image of her holding the photo with his signature on it. The background music was soft, emotional, just enough to make the moment feel real to anyone watching. Millions of people had already seen it. The comments were endless. "This man has a heart of gold." I cried watching this. The world needs more people like Keanu. He didn't just see her, he understood her pain. Someone give this man a medal. This is what a real hero looks like. Tears ran down Emily's face again, but this time she wasn't alone. The whole world had seen her, not just as a fan, not just as a crying girl, but as someone brave enough to carry her father's memory into a place where it could have been forgotten. Keanu Reeves had not only given her a moment, he had given her a voice. Soon, news channels began picking up the story. Interviews were requested. Magazines reached out. They wanted to know who Emily was, what her story meant. But Keanu, he didn't make a statement. He didn't call attention to himself. Instead, he sent a short note through his team. "This moment belongs to her, not to me. Please give her space to tell it her way." With trembling fingers, Emily opened the leather journal he had given her the night before. She turned to a blank page and began to write. Not about the movie premiere, not about being ignored, but about her father, his laugh, his dreams, the nights they stayed up watching old DVDs. The way he used to say, "You can always find kindness, even in the loudest world, if you listen closely." It felt like something inside her had finally unlocked. She posted a short entry online with a picture of the journal and the photo. Her caption was simple. "My dad never got to meet his hero, but yesterday I did, and he wasn't the one I expected." In less than 24 hours, her post reached over 4 million likes. People from every country replied. Some shared their own losses. Some spoke about fathers they missed. Others just said thank you for showing the world that quiet kindness still exists. But the story didn't stop there. That same day, an unexpected email arrived in Emily's inbox. It was from the foundation board of a large children's charity. They had seen the video. They had read her post. And they wanted to do something bigger. "We are building a new grief and healing center for kids who have lost parents," the email said. "We saw how you spoke about your father and how you turned pain into strength. Would you like to name the center after him?" Emily stared at the screen, too stunned to move. Her voice shook as she whispered, "They want to name a building after Dad." Her mother gasped, her hands covering her mouth. This is bigger than us." Emily replied yes without hesitation. Days passed, then a week, then 2. Interviews were done carefully and respectfully. She never used the moment to chase fame. She always returned to the message, about grief, about memory, about how one small act of kindness can turn someone's entire life around. And still, Keanu stayed silent in the background, never stepping in, never seeking credit. Only once, he sent a message through a video call to Emily when the charity announcement went live. His face appeared on her screen, smiling gently. "I saw what you did," he said. "You turned something painful into something beautiful. I'm proud of you." She smiled back, wiping her tears. "I'm proud of you too." Then, something unexpected happened again. Tom Cruise, who had never spoken about the incident publicly, finally reached out through his team. They asked if Emily would like to meet him privately, away from cameras. Her answer was calm. "Please tell him thank you. But I've already met the person who mattered." She wasn't angry. Not anymore. She had simply grown into someone who understood that not everyone sees the pain of others, but those who do change lives. And yet, the story still had more to reveal, because the man in the photo, her father, had once written something long ago. Something that no one had seen before. Something that, when discovered by a stranger, would connect him and Keanu in a way Emily never imagined. But that part had yet to be uncovered. The letter in the attic. 2 weeks had passed since Emily's story went viral. The photo of her holding the signed picture of her father had now become a symbol of resilience across social media. Strangers called her brave, News outlets called her inspiring. But to Emily, she was just a daughter who had loved her dad deeply and was finally beginning to understand what healing felt like. Back home, her room looked the same, the posters on the wall, the corner shelf of old movie DVDs. Her father's jacket still hung on the back of her door like it had never left, but something inside Emily had changed. The pain wasn't gone, but it didn't control her anymore. The silence in the house felt less like an absence and more like a quiet presence. Her father's memory wasn't fading, it was growing. One evening, while helping her mother clean the garage, Emily found an old wooden box with rusted hinges. It was hidden behind a stack of crates, covered in dust. The box had no lock, but it felt heavy with time. Her mother paused when she saw it. "I think your dad used to keep old notebooks in there," she said. "Before we got married, he'd write letters and poems. But after you were born, he rarely opened it again." Emily carried the box inside, her hands trembling with curiosity. She opened it gently on her bedroom floor. Inside were pages yellowed with age, scraps of thoughts, old photos, pressed leaves, and one envelope that hadn't been opened. It was sealed tightly, but on the front, in her father's handwriting, it said, "For someone kind, if I never get to meet you." Emily blinked, her breath catching. She opened the envelope slowly. The paper inside was folded neatly. It was a letter, not addressed to anyone specific, not dated, but full of emotion. "If you're reading this," it began, "then fate has found a strange way to connect us. I don't know who you are or how this letter reached you. Maybe you helped my daughter. Maybe you listened to her when the world didn't. If so, thank you. You've done something I only dreamed of doing. I believe in invisible threads. I believe in the goodness of people, especially in moments that don't get applause. If you've been kind to my child, then you are part of a story that began long before you knew it. Please, remind her that the world still holds kindness, that people still care. And if by any chance you are someone she looks up to, don't let her think stars only shine on screen. Real ones shine when no one's watching." The letter ended with 3 simple words. "I see you," Emily cried as she read it aloud to her mother. It was like hearing her father's voice again, not as a ghost, but as a guide. He had written this long ago, never knowing if anyone would find it. But now it made sense. "What if," Emily whispered, "what if this letter was meant for him?" Her mother looked confused. "Who?" "Keanu." Emily didn't wait. She scanned the letter and sent it to his assistant's email, along with a message. "I think this was meant for you. My dad wrote it years ago. I hope it finds you at the right time." She didn't expect a reply right away. Maybe not at all. But deep inside, she felt something shift again. Like another invisible thread had been tied. The next day, her phone rang. A video call. It was Keanu. His face appeared quiet and thoughtful, with that same calm energy he always carried. He said nothing at first, just held up the printed letter in his hand. "I read it 4 times, he said softly. And each time, it felt like he was speaking directly to me. Emily nodded, wiping a tear. He always believed in strangers. He said sometimes the people you never meet are the ones who change your life. Keanu looked away for a moment, gathering himself. When he spoke again, his voice was heavier. "I've done a lot of things in my life," he said. "Movies, interviews, red carpets. Most of it feels like smoke. Temporary. But this..." He lifted the letter. "This feels like something real. Something eternal." There was a long pause. "I want to do something," he added. "Something bigger than me. Bigger than us." "Like what?" Emily asked. He smiled, but this time, it was more determined. "Let's build something together," he said. "A space for people like your dad, like you, like Ben and the others from that night. A space where kindness isn't rare. It's the foundation. And we'll name it after your father, Emily gasped. You mean a real building? A real foundation? Yes, Keanu said, with your voice at the center of it. Her heart thudded in her chest. She couldn't speak. The girl who had stood behind a barricade, crying and ignored, was now being asked to co-create a legacy. Later that week, they held a small press event. Nothing grand. Just a quiet announcement at the art gallery rooftop. A single sign was unveiled. The Daniel House, a home for healing, kindness, and unseen stories. Keanu stood beside Emily as they cut the ribbon. There were no flashing cameras, no roaring crowd. Just a few people whose lives had been touched in silence. A reporter asked, "Emily, how did all this happen?" She smiled. "Someone saw me when no one else did." But as the ribbon fluttered in the breeze, Emily couldn't shake one final question. The way Keanu had reacted to the letter. There was something deeper there, a weight in his eyes. She hadn't asked yet, and she didn't know. Keanu Reeves had seen her father once before. Long ago, and the truth about that moment would change everything she thought she knew. The face in the crowd days passed since the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the Daniel House. News had quietly spread, not with noise and drama, but through hearts touched by the story. Letters poured in from people who had lost someone, people who had felt invisible and now found a place where they belonged. Emily, who once walked through life carrying silent grief, was now being called the girl who sparked something beautiful. But even as the world saw a shining light, Emily knew there was still something unspoken. Something in Keanu's eyes that night. When he read the letter, something he hadn't yet told her. One evening, Keanu invited Emily and her mother for a quiet dinner at a small, family-owned restaurant he often visited when he wanted to escape the noise of Hollywood. The place was warm, with wooden walls, soft music, and handwritten menus. No paparazzi, no fans. Just peace. After they had eaten, Keanu placed his coffee cup down, then reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small photo. Faded, folded in the corners. He slid it across the table toward Emily. "Do you recognize this man?" he asked. Softly, Emily looked at the photo. Her breath caught in her throat. The man in the picture was her father, young in a navy blue uniform, standing in front of an old theater. He was smiling. Behind him, standing a few feet away, barely in frame, was a younger Keanu Reeves. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. "Out." Keanu nodded, as if confirming what she was seeing. "Your dad and I crossed paths a long time ago. He wouldn't have known who I was back then. I hadn't made it yet. I was just a young actor walking around downtown LA, nervous about, a small audition that felt too big for me." He leaned back, looking out the restaurant window like he could still see the moment. "I was outside that theater, reading over my lines, pacing, completely lost in my head. Your dad walked past. He saw me. And I guess he could tell I was struggling. He stopped, smiled, and said something I've never forgotten." Emily leaned forward. "What did he say?" Keanu looked back at her. He said, "Don't rehearse for perfection. Show them who you really are. People feel truth, not polish." Silence filled the table. "I didn't even get the role," Keanu said with a half-smile. "But that moment stayed with me. Those words, they became something I repeated to myself over and over throughout my career. Even now, when I feel overwhelmed, I remember that stranger in a navy blue jacket." Emily's hand slowly reached for the photo. Her fingers shook as she held it. "He never told me that," she whispered. "Maybe he didn't even think it mattered," Keanu said. "But to me, it did. It mattered a lot." For a moment, no one spoke. Outside, the city lights blinked gently. Inside, a father's words spoken in passing had become the foundation of something lasting. Emily finally asked the question that had been sitting in her chest since the beginning. "Is that why you came over to me that day?" At the premiere? Keanu nodded. When I saw you holding that photo, I felt something pull me, like the universe was bringing something back around. I didn't know it was him until you told me his name. Then, it hit me. It was him. The man who gave me one of the most honest moments of my life. Emily wiped her eyes, trying to keep her voice steady. So, he helped you once. And then, years later, you helped me. Keanu smiled gently. No, your father helped me again, through you. The kindness he gave me. It lived on in you. You carried it without even knowing. That's how powerful real love is. It echoes. Tears slid down Emily's cheeks, but she wasn't sad. She felt full, seen, complete in a way she couldn't explain. Her father hadn't just given her memories. He had left behind something stronger, an invisible thread that stitched lives together, even across time. Later that night, Keanu and Emily walked outside. The street was quiet. The stars were just starting to show. I used to think fame was about being remembered, Keanu said. But now I think it's about who we remember, who shapes us. Emily nodded slowly. I think he shaped both of us. He smiled. Then let's shape others. That same week, the Daniel House announced a new program. It would offer mentorship and creative writing spaces for kids dealing with grief, confusion, and silence. Emily would lead it. The program's name? Show them who you really are. The phrase that had guided Keanu, the words her father had once said without knowing their weight. Now, those words would guide others, lost kids, hurting teens, even young adults who had no one left to talk to. And yet, the story still had one chapter left. Because as the first students walked through the doors of the Daniel House, someone else was about to arrive. Someone who had watched from a distance. Someone who had ignored a crying girl once, but was now ready to listen. The unexpected apology. A month had passed since the Daniel House opened its doors. It stood quietly in a corner of the city. Not flashy, not loud, just steady. It became a place where broken hearts came to breathe, where grief was not hidden, but held gently. Emily visited often. Sometimes she helped kids write in journals. Sometimes she just sat in the quiet room near the wall of memories, reading the notes others left behind. Her father's picture now hung in the entry hallway, right next to Keanu's handwritten quote, "People feel truth, not polish." One afternoon, Emily was upstairs organizing supplies for a workshop when a staff member came to find her. "There's someone downstairs asking for you," she said, her tone unsure. "Who is it?" Emily asked, wiping her hands on her shirt. The woman hesitated. "He said his name is Tom Cruise." Emily's heart paused. Not because she was angry, not anymore. That day outside the premiere felt like a lifetime ago, but still, his name carried weight. She took a deep breath and walked down the quiet steps. At the entrance, he stood alone. No cameras, no entourage. He wore a gray sweater, simple jeans, and a look that didn't belong to a movie star, but to a man carrying something unspoken. When he saw her. He stepped forward slowly. "Emily," he said softly. "Thank you for seeing me." She nodded. "Hi." There was silence between them, not tense, just honest. "I saw the video," he said, eyes dropping slightly. "The day of the premiere, I didn't know what you were holding. I didn't stop to look. I got caught up in being someone I thought the world wanted to see." He looked at her, and there was no actor's charm in his face now. No polished line. "I failed you that day, and I've thought about it ever since." Emily nodded slowly, her voice calm. "It hurt, yes, but I learned something because of it. If you hadn't walked past me, I would have never met him." Tom looked confused. "You mean Keanu?" She smiled. "Yes, and more than that. I found a part of my dad I didn't know existed." He glanced around at the walls, the photos, the soft colors of the Daniel house. "This is beautiful," he said quietly. "You built something lasting." Emily looked at the wall where her father's letter now hung behind glass, then back at Tom. "He would have told you to slow down," she said, "to listen more." Tom took a deep breath. "I want to help, not for headlines, not for fixing my image. I want to support what this place does. I want to do better." Emily studied him for a moment, and then she simply said, "Okay." He blinked. "Really?" "Yes," she said, "because that's what this place is about. Healing, second chances, kindness." He looked around again, this time as if he saw everything for the first time. "Thank you." As Tom left, he paused at the front desk and wrote a check, a large donation. But he didn't write his name on it. He asked the staff to label it simply, "From someone learning to listen." Later that night, Emily met Keanu at the rooftop garden they had built for the kids. She told him what happened. He listened quietly, then smiled. "Funny how the world works," he said. "Sometimes the person who walks past you ends up standing." "Beside you later," Emily nodded. "I don't think he knew how much a moment could matter, but now he does." They sat in silence for a while, watching the sun begin to fall behind the city. In the distance, the streetlights flickered on one by one, like stars waking up for the night. "You know what I think?" Emily said softly. "My dad. He never left. He's in all of this, in the kids, in the letters, in the laughter. He's in the people who show up now, just like he did that day with you." Keanu smiled, eyes a little watery. "He's the thread, isn't he? The one that stitched all of this together." She nodded. As the wind moved gently through the trees, a group of kids ran through the rooftop garden, laughing. They didn't know the full story. They didn't know about the crying girl, the silent actor, or the letter written years ago. But they felt something. Something safe. Something true. And that was enough. A year later, Emily's story was turned into a book called The Girl Behind the Barricade. All proceeds went to the Daniel House and programs for grieving children. Keanu wrote the foreword. Tom Cruise wrote the last page with one simple sentence. "Sometimes, the greatest roles we play are the ones without cameras." Emily continued to work at the Daniel House. She became a voice for those who had none, not because she sought attention, but because once someone saw her when no one else did, and it changed her life.